doesn't seem so bad until you gather them all together and then look at them and think, wow, I really bought all those books. Kia ora everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Renee and today we're doing a book haul. This is my first book haul on this YouTube channel. If you follow me on Instagram, you know that a girl likes to buy books and I share them regularly on my stories, but I thought, why not do it on here as well? These are all the books that I purchased just before and kind of during lockdown. Some of them actually, not all of them. But I thought I would share them with you today, and this is part one, I guess, so there's more to come still. Do I feel bad about it? Not really. I purchased these books from different places, so a few bookshops in New Zealand, because I love to support local independent bookshops, of course. Book Outlet, which I believe is based in Canada. Thrift Books, and Blackwell's. Those are the four I can think of, yeah. So everything's kind of just slowly trickled in, and I think I've accumulated enough to do one video, and then when the rest arrives, we'll do another video. I have 40 books, so we should just get straight into it. I'm going to start with the books that I bought in New Zealand. The first two I purchased from a bookshop called Bookity Books. They're an online store based in Wanaka in the South Island, and Mandy is fantastic. She answers all my dumb questions via DMs, and they do a lot of great things with charities and are always promoting interesting and fun new titles. So definitely check them out if you live in New Zealand and you're interested in books. Okay, the first one that I got from Bookity Books was Land by Sam Cohen. This is a collection of short stories, and each short story centers around a character with the name Sarah. I heard that this is quite a thrilling and fun read, and I'm really into short stories at the moment, so yeah, picked that one up. The next one that I got from Bookity was The Reader by Fran Lebowitz. Love her, obviously loved her Netflix series that she did, and this is a collection of essays, some published, some not published, and had seen a few people on Instagram who'd read this during lockdown and bloody loved it. Also feels like something that I could dip in and out of quite easily, and yeah, keen for a bit of witty social commentary. The next bookshop that I purchased from in New Zealand is a recent or a new bookstore that's just opened in Parnell, and that is called Lamplight Books. They're bringing in a lot of really different titles, stuff that might be a bit harder to find at maybe kind of your mainstream bookshops or other independent bookshops, and I was very happy that I was able to get this book from this specific publishing house, and that is On Freedom by Maggie Nelson. This is the Grey Wolf Press edition. I wanted this one specifically, so I was super stoked that I was able to get it through Lamplights. Wonderful customer service. She called me up on the phone and we had a little chin wag. That's how fantastic I found it. I was actually listening to a podcast with Maggie Nelson this morning. I think it's the Literary Friction podcast. Is it Literary Fiction or it's Literary Friction, right? It was a really interesting listen, and I think made me feel less nervous about starting this book. I was kind of nervous and thought that maybe I wasn't smart enough for it, but I got some of the things she was talking about in that podcast, and I actually think it really helped for before starting this. So if you are interested at all, I would say go give it a listen. Those are the books that I purchased in New Zealand. The rest are all books purchased outside of New Zealand, and I'm just gonna go open the door because it's very hot in here. Okay, the door's open now, so if you hear outside noises, I'm really sorry, but it's way too hot in here to be sitting with no doors and no windows open. Okay, let's get into the books. Right, we're going to start with the Twofer. I picked up these two essay collections by Vivian Gornick. The first one is The End of the Novel of Love. Criticism, so literary criticism. And then the other one is Unfinished Business, Notes of a Chronic Rereader. So very keen for those. I also ordered another book that is the same style of these two by Vivian Gornick. So that'll be a nice little set once those arrive. Next, I bought Fates and Furies by Lauren Groff. This has got a weird Target sticker on it, but we'll get the hairdryer out later and get that off. I owned this book, but it was the bright yellow and blue edition that I did not love. So when I saw this one come up on Book Outlet, I was like, I want to have that. So I sold my other copy, and now I have this one. Have not read any of Lauren Groff, so very much looking forward to probably getting into maybe Florida first because of short stories, because I'm into that right now. Next one, Jillian by Harley Butler. This is a book that I hadn't seen around, but I had heard, obviously know who Harley Butler is. I have The New Me, have not read it yet, but I saw this and thought, I might give that a go and see what it's like. I believe it is about a 20-something working in a job that she doesn't really enjoy. Sounds a little bit like kind of, I want to say a mix between like Eleanor Oliphant and Eileen. Yeah. Next we have The Hearing Trumpet by Leonora Carrington. This is an MYRB edition with an afterword by Olia Takashkuk. I have recently discovered Leonora Carrington's artwork. I think that The Giantess is probably my favorite painting of hers. I'll put it here. It's just one of those paintings that you could get lost in for hours with all the little details. I think they're so magical. She's obviously a really important artist to the Surrealist movement in Mexico. And when I found out that she'd written a book and it was kind of similar to her life story, I had to pick it up and was glad to get an NYRB copy because I'm trying to build up my collection, and I just think that they do really beautiful covers. The next one is Dominicana by Angie Cruz. This was a book that I saw in CJ Reid's video titled Good Plot, Good Writing. I found that video very helpful as someone who enjoys like a book that has a plot, but often finds myself getting caught up in this the writing if it's not great. So that was a very helpful video, and this is one of the books that she recommended, so I picked it up. This is a Flatiron Books publication, so not one that you would get normally in New Zealand. The next one that I picked up was The Faces by Tove Ditlevsen. This was the one that I saw on Jess Decker from Jess Decker Reads on Instagram. Her Instagram. And she loved it. I have the Copenhagen trilogy up on my shelf there that I have not read yet. But this one's just a svelte little guy, so maybe I could dip into that one first. Next, I have The Dry Heart by Natalia Ginsburg. This was one that I saw all over Instagram, and all I know about it is that it opens with the main character, a woman, shooting her husband in the head. So that's all I needed to know. It's a New Directions publication. I love their books, and it's again a little short guy, so get into that. Speaking of New Directions, I also got The Hour of the Star by Clarice Lispector. Again, this was another one that I saw all over Instagram, people raving about her writing. I haven't read her writing yet, so this will be my first. Again, small guy, have heard it's great. Love that cover. New Directions, doing good stuff. That is that. Okay, the next one I picked up was 41 False Starts by Janet Malcolm. This is a collection of essays on artists and writers. I was listening to an episode of the New York Book Review podcast, which I love, get a lot of recommendations from there. They had a section on Janet Malcolm the week after she passed away. She's a journalist who used to write for the New York Times, and this was one of the books that they recommended if you wanted to start with her writing. So they said that it was a brilliant collection, and it really shows off her kind of journalistic skills and her great writing. So very excited for that. The next couple that I got two Anita Bruckners, Look at Me and Hotel Dulac. These are two that I got from Thrift Books. So they're the kind of very old school covers. Yeah, I have been wanting to read Anita Bruckner, and these two were kind of like the most popular, and they're both quite small, so I thought I'd give them a go. About a young woman who is exiled from her family, and this one is about a librarian and a couple and kind of their interactions with one another, and the story is told from the librarian, and she's kind of yearning and wanting for what this couple has. So very excited about those two. The next one is So Sad Today by Melissa Broder. This is another collection of essays. I have not read any of her writing yet. I have the Pisces. It's been set up on my shelf for a very long time. I think I should crack it out. I've recently started listening to her podcast. She is hilarious. So yeah, I thought some non-fiction would also be a good kind of pairing to go with her fictional writing. And plus she just sounds like a fun person. Like, when you listen to someone speak, you get a better idea of the kind of person or the kind of writer that they might be. And I don't know, she just makes me want to read her writing. So the next one I picked up was Parakeet by Marie-Helene Bettino. Now this one I saw everywhere, and I don't even particularly know what it's about. It's got a blurb by Lauren Groff and Laura Vandenberg. I have one of her books here. So really I'm a sucker for seeing this and knowing, trusting the people that have read it and said that it's good. I think it's supposed to be quite a strange kind of story about a woman who's recently been married. Yeah, it sounded good, and lots of people have said it was good, so we got it. Next one that I picked up is another one that I kind of seen around a lot and has been on my radar for a while, and I was happy to have picked it up, especially in this edition. It's so beautiful. And that is Pond by Claire Louise Bennett. Rebecca from Rebecca Eats Books recently read this book after picking it up years ago and trying to read it and not getting it, and then putting it down and then retrying it and then loving it. She had kind of like quite a good and interesting conversation about that on Instagram, and about I guess the things that kind of intimidate us or stop us from thinking that we are, you know, smart enough to read a book, or that we need to have done an English degree to read a book and enjoy it or get it. So that was quite, that was a really meaningful, I think, conversation to have, because I feel like a lot of the time we do get caught up in, I find myself comparing myself to other people a lot and thinking that that person's smarter than me, so that book that they're talking about I'm never going to get, so why even bother? It was really nice to see that a lot of people had similar feelings or yeah, things to say about it. Anyway, I'm rambling, so I should probably just move on, but this is apparently just beautiful. A lot of just, I think, really beautiful descriptions of kind of daily life, and it sounds romantic, it sounds just light and airy, and I just want to kind of be, I don't know, swept off my feet. I feel like that this is the feeling that I get from this book, even though I haven't read it, but that's kind of what I want. The next one I got was Speedboat by Renata Adler. This is a writer that has been on my radar for a little while, and I wanted to pick something up from her. This one, honestly, I can't even remember what it was about. I just remember looking it up on Goodreads and thinking it sounded really good. It's about a journalist in the 1970s in New York. That probably is what sold me on it, to be honest. But yeah, very excited to read that. I bought a lot of small books because I'm really into small books at the moment. And I say that, and the next book that I'm about to pick up is huge, but when I was flicking through it yesterday, the writing on the pages is quite big, so it's not actually that big. That is Essays, one by Lydia Davis. This is a collection of her essays. I believe this is part one to that, and yeah, it's a big guy, but it's actually, the writing on the pages is really big, so I think it's intimidating, but not really. I have her collections of stories called Cant and Wont, which I know a lot of people have really enjoyed, and I don't know, I just saw this and thought that an essay collection could be quite a fun addition to her my Lydia Davis library. So yeah, picked that up as well. Okay, next one. Ties by Dominique Starnone. Now this one, I believe Rebecca from Rebecca Eats Books has spoken about this on her channel. I recently read Trust, which is his new novel that's just come out, and really enjoyed the, I'm going to say translation, because I think after reading the afterword in that book, I realised how much Jhumpa Lahiri, who has translated his books, how much work actually goes into translating a book, and how hard it must be to try to keep that essence and that carry that over from language to language. So yeah, I have a huge appreciation for translated fiction. I always have, but it was kind of really brought to my attention from reading the afterword of that book. So anyway, this book is about a relationship, a marriage, and out of the everyday struggles, restraints, confrontations that this couple has, and I really love reading those kinds of honest and true depictions of real hard, difficult relationships and just kind of like the everyday. The next one I picked up is Ariel by Sylvia Plath. It's her collection of poetry. I read The Bell Jar and I loved it, so I'm on a Sylvia mission. This one is one that I bought from Thrift Books, and it's got annotations in it, and I'm really excited about that because I was like, you know, it's just fun to see what other people have written in books and how they've interpreted it. So I can't wait to read that, and kind of, it's a fun way of interacting with someone that you've never met before through a book. Like, isn't that just crazy? Isn't that wild? I think it is. Yeah, so very stoked about that, and that is why I buy secondhand books, because you never know what kind of shit you're gonna find in a book. I haven't ever found any money in one yet, but lots of annotating. Okay, the next one is Gingerbread by Helen Oyeyemi. Now, this one I have seen everywhere and thought it sounded quite interesting. It kind of feels like a retelling of Hansel and Gretel, and it's a little bit fantastical maybe. But yeah, one of my friends reached out when I spoke about this on my Instagram and said that she really loved it, so cool. The next one that I picked up is A Separation by Katie Kitamura. This writer has recently come on my radar from her new release, Intimacies, which I really want to read. And I saw this on Book Outlet and read what it was about, and it sounded really good. It's about the breakdown of a marriage and the husband going missing just after the marriage has they've decided to separate, and the wife kind of takes it into her hands to find out what's happened to him. So feels a bit thrillery maybe. It's kind of my reach for that, but while still being a bit literary. The next book is Modern Love by edited by Daniel Jones. Now, I know that this is a television series, but I often listen to the Modern Love podcast, and I really like some of the stories that they share on there. So when I found out that it was a book as well, or that he'd published some of those stories into a book, I wanted to pick it up. I'm a bit of a sucker for romance sometimes, but I think that this is not your typical kind of love stories. The stories about familial love and love between siblings and parents and cities and that kind of thing. So it's a fun way to look at it, and yeah, I'm excited to read a few of them. I think it's one that, again, because it's stories you can kind of dip in and out of, and you don't have to sit down and read them all at once. I do want to watch the TV show though, because it looks like it's got some great actors in it. Okay, the next two I picked up because Rebecca told me to. That is Private Novelist by Nell Zink and Doxology by Nell Zink. This one I've seen in one of my local used bookstores for ages, but it is the biggest, like most massive edition of this book I've ever seen. So yeah, I was not gonna bring that home. Yeah, Lamplight is a writer that I really want to get to this year. I have mislaid in my TBR, and I think I'm going to start with that. But I saw these and thought I should pick them up. I also have another one of her books on the way, but we'll save that for another time. Okay, the next one that I picked up was Stoner by John Williams. This is a book that I picked up because of Sophie's recommendation. Sophie from Golden Hour Books on Instagram. She, her review and her sharing of her reading while she was reading it was really what sold me on this. It sounds like an absolutely heartbreaking but beautiful tale of a man's life and his, I guess, attempt to try and make more for himself, and then the small town he lives, the Midwest town that he lives in, and yeah, she obviously said it in a more eloquent way and spoke about it really well, but it was enough for me to want to pick it up. So I got this one from Thrift Books, and it's an NYRB copy, so I was stoked to find that. The next one I picked up, another NYRB. I told you I'm trying to build up my collection. I have 3 more from them coming. No, I don't, but yes, I do. That is The Door by Mike DeZarbo. And this one, Mike DeZarbo is someone who's been on my radar, and this one sounded really good. It is the story of the relationship between a woman and this woman that they hire as a cleaner, and I guess it talks on aspects of class. I think this is also translated from the Hungarian. I'm not sure. Yes, translated from the Hungarian, and it's got an introduction by Ali Smith. Have heard so many good things about this book and wanted to give it a go. The next one that I picked up is such a tiny little book, and it's so cute. And that is Exposure by Olivia Sujic. Now this one I've never heard of, but I want to read Asylum Road by her because I've heard that that's fantastic as well. And then this one I saw on Blackwell's and heard that it was an essay that she had written after the success of her debut novel that she wrote, Sympathy, which I also want to read. That's on my radar too. After the release of Sympathy, her debut novel, which explores surveillance and identity in the internet age, Olivia Sujic found herself under the microscope. Trapped in an anxious spiral of self-doubt, she became alienated from herself and her work. Blaming her own mental health masks a wider problem that still persists: the tendency for writing by women, whether fiction or personal testimony, to be validated on the grounds of sex. So yeah, that sounded super interesting, and it's so cute and svelte, and I got it. This is another book from the CJ Reads Good Plot, Good Writing video that she did, and that is The Exhibition of Persephone Q by Jessie Ujesqua Stevens. Now I looked up this person's name and how to say it, and I was very surprised, but that's how you say it apparently. I don't really know what this one is about. I think it's about art, which was enough to sell me, really, so yeah. Oh, okay. I see the word motherhood, and I see the word fretting over her marriage, so definitely sounds like my cup of tea. The next one I picked up is What My Mother and I Don't Talk About. This is a collection of stories written by different writers on the topic of motherhood. Have heard so many good things about this. It's got stories written by Melissa Febos, Lynn Steger-Strong, Kesey Lehman, Carmen Maria Machado, Andre Assaman, and Brandon Taylor. So I'm very much interested in the topic of motherhood and will try to get my hands on anything I can to do with it. So if you have any recommendations, if there's anything that I should read, let me know. The next one I picked up was Green Girl by Kate Zambreno. This one actually came up in a search that I did online when I was trying to find on a website books by Clarice Lispector, and this one came up because the writing has been compared to that of, now I brought it up because there's no blurb on this, but with the fierce emotional and intellectual power of such classics as Jean Reis's Good Morning Midnight, which is one that I have that I'm hoping to read next month, Sylvia Plath's The Bell Jar, which I read and I loved, and Clarice Lispector's The Hour of the Star, which I've just shown you. Kate Zambreno's novel Green Girl is a provocative, sharply edged portrait of a young woman navigating the spectrum between anomie and epiphany. And it sounded really good, so I picked it up. Also, this cover is so good. It's like a close-up of an eye with some crazy makeup. She's also got like a pimple in her eyebrow. Ugh, I know. The next one I picked up is I Hold a Wolf by the Ears, which is a collection of stories written by Laura Vandenberg. Apparently very creepy, very thrilling, and it's short stories, so you know I had to have it. Yeah, I've heard very good things about this one. Also, just the weirdest cover. Like, it's quite cool, quite weird. The next one I picked up was Want by Lynn Steger-Strong. It's about a woman who is kind of unsatisfied in her life. She is going through a difficult time and she reaches out to an old friend, and they may be kind of going through similar things, and it's about that kind of sharing of problems, having someone to kind of connect to in that way when maybe you feel quite isolated. Yeah. The next one that I picked up was another CJ Reads recommendation, and that is Draw Your Weapons by Sarah Santellis. Now, she's talked about this one on her channel a lot. It's a collection of essays. Well, it's a non-fiction written in different ways. So, a combination of memoir, history, reporting, visual culture, literature, and theology. Sarah Santellis offers an impassioned defense of life lived by peace and principle. It is a literary collage with an urgent hope at its core. That art might offer tools for the remaking of the world. Very interested in art and would love to read more around the topic of art and kind of criticism, and then something that is quite literary as well. So I think this one has a lot to do with violent imagery and the way it is kind of, we've become quite desensitized to it, and also the ways in which it is used in popular culture and stuff like that. And it says with echoes of Susan Sontag and Maggie Nelson, so that feels like big brain energy to me. Okay, only a few more to go. I promise this is very, very close to finishing. The next one is A Room Called Earth by Madeline Ryan. This is a debut novel written by this writer. It is the story of a young woman who goes to a party, and it's that one evening, and she's telling, the story is being told from her perspective alone, and this young woman is autistic. And yeah, I just heard that it's a really brilliant look at someone's experience through that lens and what that would be like and how that would feel, and it's done in a really wonderful way, I've heard. And yeah, it's her debut novel, so keen to get into that. I have another book, a collection of essays by Janet Malcolm called Nobody's Looking at You. There were just quite a lot of interesting kind of essays in here that I thought sounded interesting, so I picked it up. And obviously when I know about a writer, I want to collect all their work even before I've read any of it. So yeah, that was another one. Okay, second to last one. Certain American States by Catherine Lacey. This is a collection of stories. I have wanted to read her writing for a while, so this felt like a good place to start. You know, I'm loving my stories at the moment. I'm just going to read the blurb. The characters in certain American states are continually coming to terms with their place in the world before change inevitably returns. A woman leaves her dead husband's clothing on the street only for it to reappear on the body of a stranger. A man reads his ex-wife's short stories and neurotically contemplates whether it is about him. Reminds me of something. A young woman attempts to deal with family tragedy and interrupted daily by a mute stranger showing her incoherent messages on his phone. These are stories of breakups, abandonment, and strained family ties, loneliness, happenstances, starting over, and the constant destruction of the self. Sounds fantastic. Yeah, so there's that. Okay, the last book, and I think I'm the most excited about this one. One, because it's like an edition that you just can't get in New Zealand, and two, because of the book. Probably the other way around. One, because of the book, and two, because it's an edition that you can't get. And that is Priest Daddy by Patricia Lockwood. I read No One Is Talking About This by her this year and absolutely loved it. I thought that her writing was really brilliant, and I also want to read some of her poetry as well. This is her memoir written about the relationship between her and her father, who is a Catholic priest. A lot of people seem to be confused about that, but I just figured that there'd be an explanation as to how he was able to be a priest. The story of her growing up, and then what it was like for her and her husband, who had to move back in with her parents as adults. And I've heard that it is funny and witty and full of just a lot of greatness. Can you tell that I'm tired? Was very excited to have found this and stoked to have picked it up. Oh my god, we're done. That was so exhausting. I don't know if I can ever do that again. I will, probably, but thank you for watching all the way through. If you made it to the end and didn't click out, you really are an angel. I'm very excited about all of these books. Let me know if you've read any of these books, what you think of them, if you have any recommendations for me based on any of these or other things. I am always open for those. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for a part 2 to this, I guess, because this isn't all of them. Not for the faint-of-hearted. That's not the right. Not for the faint of heart. That's the right. There we go. Okay, I'm really tired now. I'm gonna go. Bye.